Now recognizes the gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Fulcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for the record, in your opening statement, you made a comment that by putting more pressure on these standards, it would drive more and more business away and hurt us economically. And I want to just say, I think you're absolutely right. And for a note here, we've been doing a little bit of homework. Our friends in China have stated that they hope that by the year 2035, in their population centers, they can get to the same level of objectives, which is the 35 level, that we put in place in 2006. And so somewhere around 30 years behind us is where they are. So I think your statement is absolutely correct. When we drive more and more business there, we just put more and more negative output on the planetary scale. And so, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Hunt, I've got like comments from both of you on this. Some of us are going down similar roads here, but Mr. Byrd, I'll start with you. In a September 7 letter to EPA Administrator Reagan, members of the committee noted that wildfires and unpaved roads contribute up to 84% of particulates and gaseous particulate matter precursors going into the air. Meanwhile, only 16% of such particulates come from industrial sources and power plants. So given that layout, will imposing more stringent air quality standards on that 16% of the alleged sources, is that going to help our overall situation, or is that going to hurt it?
So I think based in the context of we've been doing this for many, many years, of course, the controls are already in place on a number of those controllable sources. And what we're left with now is these more remote sources, forest fires. Utah's the second driest state in the nation, neighbor of yours. Of course, that is a concern for us as well, is the dust from the West Desert that impacts the Wasatch Front is more of a factor than the local sources that we can regulate.
So can I understand from that that imposing more stringent air quality standards on that 16% is not going to help our overall situation?
Yes, that is what we believe, that we've already put the controls that are reasonable. Additional controls will have an added burden, but not have the corresponding.
Mr. Hunt, can you comment on that, please?
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, as I stated earlier, we already have substantial pollution control equipment on our facilities. We've reduced our nitrogen oxide emissions by 50% and our sulfur dioxide emissions by over 80%. We're less than 1% of the overall PM emissions. So focusing on the same sources again and again, you're squeezing the rock. There's not any additional reductions that can be achieved. And by creating this permitting gridlock, by lowering the standard without a good implementation plan, could even jeopardize opportunities for my mills to modernize and install more efficient equipment that by definition will mean less emissions per ton of product, and that product would be made in America.
Okay, you actually answered the second question I had for you as well, so thank you for that. Mr. Byrd, very quickly, several commenters on EPA's proposed rule suggest that the EPA has authority under the Clean Air Act to classify and exempt prescribed burns as an exceptional event. However, Section 319 of the statute states that to qualify for an exceptional event, any event must not be reasonably controlled or preventable, and if it is a human activity, not recurring. So given that context, would you worry that if there was a lawsuit, the EPA might have some problems and exceptional event determinations for prescribed burns?
That is a concern for us, and under the regional haze planning requirements, it looks like that's the way things are going.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to yield the rest of my time to the gentleman from Alabama.